Should we just go for it?
I think we just wing it.
Okay.
That'd be fine.
All right.
I have no problem. Something in my throat.
Thanks for that.
No problem.
Thanks for that. We had so much fun making this episode that it did go a little long, so we are separating this episode into 2 parts. This is part 1. Welcome to the Wise Defender Podcast. My name is Andrew Kohler. I am joined here by my friend Andrew Jansen. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Dude, good to have you here. I'm stoked to have this conversation with you because we talk about it almost every time we're in the car on the way to the range or coming back from the range, it seems. And that topic is red dots on pistols. So, yeah, this is going to be fun. Before we get too deep into it, though, we do have a couple segments that we want to touch on. Our first one, this is one of my personal favorites, and that's gear highlights. Staying on theme, we both chose something to highlight that is pistol red dot related. So if you want to go first.
Of course. So for my highlight, what are we calling this? It's like equipment highlight.
Yeah, gear.
I love doing the gear highlight. Is my Velocity Precision adapter plate for my red dot. I was impatient and I couldn't wait for an MOS to be in stock a few years ago. So I decided to go with just a standard Glock 19 Gen 5. And after some time, I'm like, I need a red dot. And I was like, how do I get a red dot on here? Well, the Velocity Precision adapter plate allows me to basically slide it onto the dovetail slot and then bolt the red dot right under the plate. It's worked phenomenally. So I have no complaints.
Just knock out those rear sights, and then this takes their place.
Yep, and then it slides on. It has a nice, tight interference fit, so there's no moving. I've had zero issues with zero. Yeah, it's worked phenomenally. So, yeah, I highly recommend for those who don't have an MOS to look at Velocity Precision adapter plates.
Nice. All right, sweet. And then I'm glad you didn't take mine because we're both running the same dot. But
you
mine
copied me.
Yeah, sure. But I went with what is this? It's a Holosun letter number. I swear, I wish that they would just give these actual names so that you could remember them. But this is a HS507C. What I love about this specifically is the reticle. I mean, there's a lot of good pistol optics out there, but the ACSS Vulcan reticle, I have a special place in my heart for this reticle. Not only do I love the chevron reticle, but I also love the ring that comes with it. I think this is great for new pistol shooters. I think it's also great for, I mean, even just if you're doing more spicy pistol shooting. And basically, if you're not familiar with this reticle, what it does is you have your center dot. It's actually a chevron, but then you have a ring that exists outside of the window of your optic. So if you go to present and, one of the common problems is I can't find my dot. It's not in the window and I need to kind of fish for it. Well, what this ring does is it indicates where you're off so that you can quickly correct and get your dot into the center of the window. If you aim precisely and you don't see the ring at all, I mean, that just means that you're aligned perfectly. So with your dot centered in the window, you're not going to see the ring. And you can turn it on and off, because I know some people complain about that, messing with the battery life. I got tired of replacing my battery again for, I don't know, it seems like once a month I have to swap batteries these days. So I did turn mine off. I'm kind of playing with that now. But
I turned mine back on.
Okay.
I had it off for a while, but then you convinced me to turn it on, so it seems like we've swapped.
We've kind of swapped positions there. That's kind of funny. But yeah, great optic. It's been very reliable. I like that the battery side loads, so you don't have to take the optic off.
That is nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
It seems like that's the direction a lot of optics are going now, so which is good. It makes all the sense in the world. So, yeah. And the chevron, I thought I was going to hate it. I was like, I just love a crisp single dot. And I'm like, that chevron's going to just take a lot of time to get used to. I just immediately fell in love with it. And having the point of it, just the point of the chevron to put where you want the bullet to go, yeah, just simple. And yeah, I don't know.
No, I'm there with you. I have the same sight, and I have astigmatism issues, and having that kind of vertex of the chevron is helpful. Not so much blowout, so a
Yep.
more refined point for me.
Yeah.
So it works well for me. He
Sweet.
was the one who brought it on or brought it to my attention. I'm like, that's the one.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get some into the shop at some point. I don't
That's a
think
great
yeah, I don't think I told you about that, but we'll see if I can make that happen.
great idea.
Okay, without further ado, let's get into our topic. So we're gonna come at this topic from a slightly different angle. This whole thing was spurred on just by me being a part of a conversation with a gentleman who was convinced that red dots on pistols is a mistake, that it's not a good idea, and he had several reasons for why he thought that. And this sentence seems to kind of come up whenever you're talking with someone who is anti pistol red dot. And it's basically, you don't need a red dot. A red dot doesn't make you a better shooter. You can do just fine with irons. So we're going to interact with that statement. And yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of curious right off the bat. What's your gut reaction when someone says that?
Yeah, we've talked about this, and I would agree with the first clause. You don't actually need a red dot, but I disagree with the second clause. I believe that it does have the potential to make you a better version, a better shooter
I like
than what you previously were. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to make you a better shooter than other people, but I think it definitely will increase the potential, your shooting potential.
Yeah.
So if you're comparing yourself with irons versus red dot, it will absolutely make you better.
Yeah.
But you don't need it, but we recommend it.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be the consistent theme you're going to hear throughout this episode is that you with irons versus you with red dot, you're going to perform better with red dot. And just a piece of anecdotal evidence towards that is literally any student that is shooting with iron sights and I give them that same pistol with a red dot, their group instantly tightens up. With group shooting, they do better with predictive and reactive shooting, all kinds of stuff. So let's talk about some of the advantages of it first, and then we want to be charitable with the concerns about using red dots on pistols. So we're going to talk about the disadvantages, and we're going to poke at them pretty hard too. But let's first kind of talk about why do we feel it's worth it to put these on your pistol, even though there's a learning curve that comes with them. Okay, so why don't you take the first one?
I mean, all these points kind of are, I think they all
They're all connected.
They're all connected.
Yeah.
But just kind of like my first thoughts of like why I think a red dot is more useful, making you a more effective shooter. You don't have to kind of span or divide your attention between three different objects. Because with iron sights, you have a rear, front. You got to align those, and then you got to also make sure that those two are aligned with your target.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have to be moving through your depth perception. You're going to have to focus, move back and forth, and it can be kind of disorienting. It can take time to do that. Whereas with a red dot, it's allowing you to be able to just see this really bright red thing or green, and you don't really need to focus on that. You can focus on the target. Mm-hmm. And when that bright red or green object is over that target, you'll know. You don't need to focus in on that object. So it allows you to be able to focus on the target, allows you to be able to have greater perception of what's going on around you, which is really important. Yeah. Which is really important. Is the target, is this threat, do they have a firearm? Do they have a knife? Or is that just a cell phone? What else is going on? Is there another target that's coming into my view? Instead of having to,
throw your vision.
Yeah, throw your great term.
Yeah.
It's just it reduces the amount of bandwidth you're using on trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's controversial, the conversation between do you focus on your front sights or your rear sights? And it's like, well, we advocate for target focusing, which is your threat is in focus and your sighting system is blurry in your foreground. And again, please don't misunderstand us and hear us say that you can only do this with red dot. You cannot do these things with iron sights. You can. People have done them for a long time and been very successful at using iron sights. There are people who, even though I use a red dot, there are people who can outshoot me like crazy with their iron sights. So what I'm not saying is that iron sights make you a bad shooter at all. So please understand that. But when we're saying that we advocate for target focus, red dot allows you to do that very easily in a way that, iron sights it requires a little more effort to align those objects, your rear sight and your front sight, like he's saying, and then get those aligned on your target as well. So just having a simple dot, you just place where you want the bullet to go, and then you pull the trigger, and it's just simple. Yeah. It takes something somewhat complicated and makes it simple.
I don't know the science behind it, but I would assume that vision throwing is affected when you're dumped with adrenaline. I could imagine dilation of the pupils is gonna play some effect, and your ability to target focus while you're at the flat range, not plinking, but shooting at cardboard or steel is going to be different than when you're faced with a target who's an actual like living human being, or an animal that's a threat. I can just imagine I can imagine there's physiological difficulties that come about. So it's just like red bright thing on target. It's just I think so much easier.
Yeah. I mean, some of the interesting conversations around front sight focus and all that stuff. It really comes from the fact that you do have two objects on your gun that you need to contend with. And then especially with new shooters, when you're teaching them, the fundamentals of shooting. And so there's a lot of group shooting happening. They're going to have to throw their vision from the bullseye back to their sights. I mean, honestly, that's just how you have to teach people, because they don't have the muscle memory built enough yet to keep their sights aligned. So they have to continually check on their sights and make sure they're still lined up how they should be. So you're in a way, I would have rather give a new shooter a red dot immediately, and you can immediately start to teach them target focusing. Because if at first you have to teach them how to line up their sights and be conscientious of that, along with the long list of other things they need to be focusing on: trigger press, grip pressure, hand positions, shoulders, feet position, all this stuff that's racing through their minds. And now they're like, okay, wait, my sight's aligned, and they're checking on that, and they're having to throw their vision back and forth. Versus you give a new shooter a red dot, it simplifies it. And some people are going to hear that and be like, oh, he just wants to simplify things. How about gain skill instead? And that's what, like, oh yeah, we're going to get there. But I'm an advocate that whatever you can do with iron sights, you can do better with a red dot. So when you start pushing your skills and combining isolated fundamentals together, that red dot's going to help boost your performance at an intermediate level, at an advanced level. It's not just for new shooters, but I think a new shooter could potentially benefit from it right away versus forcing themselves to kind of take on bad habits from focusing on their sights just to learn how to align them. And now when eventually they do upgrade to a dot, or they get into more dynamic shooting, now they need to untrain something that they had to do as a training tool to begin with, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Are you saying like they're having to undo the iron sight training?
Yeah. They taught themselves to focus on their sights just so they could, confirm that they're aligned. And now they need to untrain themselves once they get to more intermediate level so that they can threat focus.
I experienced that, and it would have been significantly easier if I was just handed a red dot, in my honest opinion. Now, I think it's great. I mean, I don't think all my skill in using irons is a waste, but yeah, if I'm going to start somebody out with as a new shooter, it would be giving them a red dot. There's less for them. They spend less bandwidth. If you can just completely remove that and say, yeah, you see that red thing? put it on the target.
Mm-hmm.
And you could use kind of the similar logic of like, well, you know, they just need to develop the skill before they get a red dot. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
do we start people out on a musket? No, start them out on an AR-15. You know,
Yeah.
we don't need to. We have technology. We don't need to
Yeah.
go back and try to handicap ourselves.
Yeah, I used to believe that. I used to be like, yeah, I think you should start someone off on irons first before moving them to a red dot so they have the fundamentals down. I mean, you mean the fundamentals of the thing that they're gonna swap out for a red dot? Like why waste their time with that? I mean, and the thing is, like we're talking about like, oh yeah, it's complex to line them up. It's not rocket science to line up iron sights. It's really easy. So what we're not saying is you need the simplicity of a red dot because iron sights are complicated. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is, yeah, if you had to use iron sights in a pinch, you absolutely can. But red dot adds a further simplicity that allows your mental bandwidth to open up, like Andrew said, on other things. And you know, I mean, the goal with unless you're just into target shooting and you're like, yeah, I want to make it as complicated for myself as possible, then like, okay, fine, like have fun, do that, like have a great time. But when it comes to personal protection, church security, you know, I want to simplify as much as I can so that I can put my mental bandwidth on the threat, so I can, even in my training, focus on skill building. Why add complexity to something? And yeah, so I've completely changed my position where I'm like, yeah, why train someone on something that you're gonna then try to, you know, you're building habits that are going to be irrelevant once you inevitably move them to a red dot, which you're convinced is the place you want to take them anyways. Just put them on the red dot.
Yeah, I don't think the skills you build with training with iron, like presenting your rifle, and I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about that, how it, you know, the red dot actually provides benefit to your training.
Yeah.
Maybe we move into that.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue. Let's go into it.
Yeah, I was just thinking when I was training, you know, presenting, you know, in compressed ready and training to be able to present my pistol and have sight and target alignment perfectly, you know, training that muscle memory. You brought up a really good point as I was getting really excited about my progress, where you're just like, be careful to not make a micro I don't know if these are your words, but a micro adjustment towards the end, because we can very quickly, when we present, subconsciously notice that we're not fully aligned and make that tweak kind of right at the end
With
and
iron sights, right?
with irons, yeah.
Yeah.
And be convinced, oh yeah, I had those aligned, like that was good, and then start putting in your reps.
Yeah.
And unaware that, you know, you're not presenting quite as good as you think you are initially. You're having to make these small adjustments because it's really difficult to be able to see that misalignment. But with a red dot, it's bright. There's a great contrast.
Very obvious.
Very obvious. You present it, and if you try to align it when it wasn't when it was misaligned and it wasn't aligned how you want it, you go, oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, why am I pointing kind of low left? Like,
Yeah.
okay, something systematically is wrong, and it humbles you, but it gives you feedback, and that's hard and it's hard to fool yourself.
Yeah.
It's very humbling. It's very hey, this is reality, and that is so beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah, just the training value of a red dot that allows you to see what's actually happening in your live fire, in your dry fire, is very valuable, because your brain is smart, and if you put the iron sights up in front of your face and they're not perfectly aligned, like, yeah, you can do some cleanup work in that last microsecond, and you know, if you're not paying close attention, can think like, yeah, I did my dry fire and I pointed it at the outlet across the room, and yeah, my sights were on, but it's like, were they? They were kind of off, and you corrected it at the last moment. But like he's saying, if, man, you have a red dot and you pull that out, it's unmistakable. It's like, no, I was off to the left.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so it's just some of that stuff where it makes some of the training elements more obvious, and that actually transitions us well to another point, which is tracking your sight during recoil. You can track your irons during recoil. It's so much easier to track your red dot. So as far as understanding your recoil pattern, and just understanding, like, hey, am I successfully managing my recoil? It just becomes so obvious with the red dot. Like if you take a shot and you notice your dot dips down beneath your target after you shoot, and you're like, okay, I'm putting too much input into the gun to bring it down beneath my target. I need to let the gun kind of maybe more settle a little bit more naturally. Or, even if you're doing some form of rapid fire and you're staring at your sights or your dot, and so some of your shots are going high on your second shot, like some of that just becomes a little bit more obvious as well. But there's just certain things that you can do tracking your dot during recoil that, for me, it's just more challenging with iron sights. And if your response to that is, well, then just get better with iron sights, then it's like, okay, fine, yeah, okay, I guess I just need to get better with iron sights. But there's just so many advantages to this tool. Why would I take this off my gun, go put it on a shelf, and just resign myself to an extra 10 hours each training session with iron sights to compensate for something that a red dot could help me do easier?
Exactly.
Yeah, man, this podcast is kind of facetious. There's a lot of sarcasm in this one.
Yeah,
I hope that's okay.
And I love it. I'm here for it.
He's here for it. And I just want to
tea.
And this tea, yeah. What this guava tea? Oh,
Iced tea, caffeinated at 11:14 p.m. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna go well.
Who needs sleep?
Who needs sleep? So as we're having this conversation, how I don't want this to come across is, if you are in the camp of anti-red dot, this is not like a us versus you kind of thing, and we don't want this to be abrasive at all. We just want to articulate some of the points that in our mind are the most compelling for why we enjoy shooting pistols with red dots, and why we think that it would be a benefit to you as well. You don't have to do what we do. Or maybe you're a new shooter and you're trying to decide for yourself, is it worth the extra money to put a red dot on your pistol? Make that decision for yourself, whatever you think is best for you. We're just trying to give and articulate what we think are the main reasons why we think it's beneficial, why we think it's helpful, why we think it'll up you to your next level as a shooter. Okay, so we've talked a lot about some of the benefits. Do you have any more in your mind before we move on to some of the downsides of shooting with red dot?
I do have one that just came to mind.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more specific in the target focus conversation, but that's like target transition. I've been able to transition between targets so much quicker because of that contrast, like significantly quicker. Especially when you're like, if you're shooting out in the woods or out in the mountains and there's rocks and you have a white and black iron sights, your gun kind of can blend in, and you're just like, you can kind of, I used to get kind of, I mean, I wouldn't say I used to get kind of lost, but it was just, I'm like, am I looking at the rock? What's this black? What's this gray? What's going on here?
I was going to say you can lose your sights. I've totally experienced that. We're like, crud, especially in some of the shadows,
Yeah.
if it's a treed area.
And, so yeah, or just even like sun hitting you in the face, and making it difficult to see. But yeah, that red just makes it so much easier to transition. It's like, I was doing some dry fire before I came over here, and it was just like
Flex.
oh no, that's fun. Not flex. No, that was a good one. Yeah, I was like, it's almost like I'm playing like Call of Duty or like Halo, where it's like my reticle is just kind of there, and I'm just able to, like, I want to aim it there, and I can have this, this wider field of view, and I can just, it's like almost like with a mouse, just putting it on there, but I'm focusing on everything around me. And I was just like, this is truly, and this is it's next level. Like, you don't instantly get there. I think you would, when you're beginning with red dot, you'll still focus on the red dot, especially if you started with irons, because I don't know a lot of people who just start out with, I don't know a lot of people who start out with a red dot, but like for me, I was still not target focusing. I was still
focusing on your dot.
Yeah, focusing on my dot, but then over time I'm like, I don't need to do that at all. It feels like a superpower.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I was just reminded of like the transition capabilities that I was able to get from having a red dot, and I'm like, I'll never go back.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, focusing on your dot is going to be an issue for anyone starting out, and even not starting out, but you know, it's always going to be a temptation to it's the thing that's closest to your face, and like you said, it's contrasty, right? So your vision's just going to naturally want to go there. So no matter what, you're going to have to train past focusing on your sighting system and instead focusing on the target. I'm just convinced that's going to be easier to do with red dot, but I'm open to the conversation. I'm open to hearing a compelling argument against that. Now, when you did mention the contrast, one other thing that I thought about, you know, I've worked with people who are more advanced in years as well on the range, and that's another thing is if your eyesight is going, having a red dot to just simplify your aiming can be a lot easier for people who are older, versus having to contend with sights. You know, I've there's a time that my grandpa came to the range back when I was an RSO, and so we took him onto like the 22 range. It was really fun, but he really struggled with using iron sights on a rifle, and it was actually very frustrating for him. And it kind of turned a tender moment, like a little bit like a bummer, because you know we want him to have fun, but he's really struggling with that. And it wasn't a red dot on that rifle, but we had like a Crimson Trace laser, and once we turned that on, you know, he was able to be successful. So it's just the concept is, if you can simplify something for yourself, why wouldn't you? There's just, you know, no reason to be frustrated. I mean, trust me, there's plenty other things that'll frustrate you. There are things about the red dot that will frustrate you too. And I mean, I think that's a good enough segue.
I was like, the first frustration I thought of, I looked down and I was like, oh, he has it in number one. So
yeah, okay. So why don't you lead us off? What are some of the biggest downsides of the red dot?
Where is this dot? Dang it! Where is the dot? I can't find it.
Yeah, if you wanna say fix it with training, like there's your fix it with training. Like, you know, there's no reason to fix it with training for iron sights. You'll have stuff you can fix with training with red dot too. Finding the dot is a serious problem. And the nice thing about iron sights is if you present the gun and your sights aren't aligned on target, it's very simple to figure out how you need to adjust. With the red dot, if you present the gun and that dot is not floating in that window and you don't know which way you need to twist the gun to get it to appear, it can be frustrating.
You don't know where and I just got a little bit excited about this because this kind of ties into like why we like our particular model of red dot, where it's like when you have the iron sights, they're practically visible from compressed ready as you're presenting it. But with the red dot, when you're compressed ready, you're not actually seeing where that red dot is. So as you're presenting your pistol, you're not getting a visual of it until you're much further out.
Yeah.
And the optic's further in front of your face. And if you haven't practiced with your presentation, then, you know, it's going to take some time to be like, oh, where is it? Or let's just say, like, you know, you do present a lot and just an off day, or you haven't practiced in a while, or you're in a stressful, adrenalized situation. You're like, where is it? Where is it? You don't know where to go if you don't know where it is.
Yeah.
So you kind of are fishing for it. You're like, where is it? But the beautiful thing about our particular red dots is it has like that circle reticle that is practically visible at any articulation
Yeah.
of the firearm. So it gives you a point of reference if you are off with your presentation. It goes, oh, okay, I'm off, but I know where I'm off, and it allows you to correct much quicker.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Which again, for new shooters, I think that's a huge advantage. But even for your more intermediate or advanced shooter as well, I mean, you something kicks off and you get knocked on your back and you're trying to, get your dot in view from an awkward shooting position, or you're, trying to maneuver around cover or concealment, and, maybe your hands are kind of at an awkward angle. It's just nice to have that option, I mean, and again, it drains the battery, but I think I'm honestly shocked that more manufacturers are not doing this. I don't know if there's some kind of like patent thing involved and that's why, but my prediction would be that in the next 2 to 3 years, the majority of red dots have this type of feature built into it. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I'm just surprised that more people aren't doing it. And this particular optic with that feature is not more popular. And I've played with some of the Holosun pistol optics that have a dot with kind of the donut around it, and maybe it's like, oh, that kind of does something similar, like an EOTech style reticle, but on a pistol red dot. And it's like, oh, you can kind of use that the same way, where that donut, you kind of see that peeking out of the side. And I played around with that a little bit. It's just not the same.
Does it distract you from target focus?
Because for me it does. I personally don't like that type of reticle. I like a simple dot. Even on rifle, I prefer I'd take an aim point over an EOTech. That's just me. I have nothing against EOTechs. I have nothing against that reticle per se. I just like the simplicity of just a clean center dot. I get that there's, with holds and stuff, not to jump to rifle optics, but I understand that you can hold at distance with certain markings from the donut of death and some of the hash marks on it. I get that there's utility to it. I'd be happy to run with an EOTech, but, if I'm choosing an optic for myself, I just don't prefer that reticle.
Not for a pistol. I don't know if I'm going to do holds in it. In the most likely scenario, it's going to be a close engagement.
Yeah, you're right. From that standpoint, it doesn't matter. But even if just like choosing a style of optic, to each their own. But the closed emitter Holosun that I've been playing with, see, I don't even remember the model number. It's just, please, manufacturers, give them a simple name. Just give them names. I'm a simple man. Just give them names. I turned it off, so it's just a clean dot.
Okay.
The extra frills and stuff, whatever. But yeah, back to what you were talking about with that ring. It's just helpful. It's just helpful because finding the dot, it is a problem, but that is also a call to really train and practice, get consistent with your grip pressures, get consistent with how you manipulate and what you do with your wrists, and just all of that stuff. Lock that in, because even if you're using iron sights, you want to be able to draw and shoot. You don't want to have to draw, find your sights, align your sights, and shoot. Even though you can do that easier with iron sights, you don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You want to draw, be on target, and be able to get your shot off as soon as possible. What are the draw times? It's like 2 seconds is average, 1.5 is professional, and then 1 second draw and shoot is expert. It's like if you go onto the range and you find that your draw to shoot time is slowed down the most by you having to acquire your sights, then that tells you that that's an area that you need to get stronger in. And you're going to have that issue with iron sights or red dots. The only difference is that with the irons, there's a more clear path to fixing your sights. So, okay, we've spent a lot of time on that one, but that one, it truly is the biggest downside to red dots. What else?
A dead battery.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yep, you're doing your dry fire and you realize, is this on? Oh, battery's dead.
Well, hopefully hopefully you discover that in your dry fire.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Hopefully, this is a tool that's used daily, something that's not just sitting on the shelf
Yeah.
or your nightstand, or locked up in a safe, but
Or even in your holster.
or in your holster. And in your holster,
And you carry it around with you, but you don't practice enough or dry fire enough to even notice that your dot died 4 months ago.
that's shame on that's embarrassing.
That's embarrassing.
But yeah, shame on you for that. Dead battery, just some can harp on, well, it takes a battery and that can die. It's just like, yeah, a lot of things we rely on has batteries that can die. But yeah, it's put it on a maintenance schedule. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is a downside, but I don't think it's a deterrent to be like, oh man, I don't know if I should get a red dot. There's the potential for the battery to die. So
Some solutions around this, like you said, you can literally put it on your calendar. Like, okay, every 5 months, calendar reminder, swap out your battery. Boop, do it. And different red dots have different longevity of life. The dimmer it is, the longer it's going to last. But like some of the Trigicons, like the RMR, what is it? It's like a 2 or 3 year lifespan on that thing. That's impressive. And that's off of a CR 2032, I think. So that's pretty good. And then some of these sights that have either higher brightness settings or more to their reticle can drain a little bit faster. But again, most of them are pretty impressive and can last quite a bit of time. But yeah, if you just incorporate it into your routine to swap out the battery, you're fine. Another option is co-witnessing, which you can, there's good ways to co-witness, and then there are ways that I think are just pointless. So if you have suppressor high sights so that your sights and your red dot are like perfectly aligned, and that's like a true co-witness. So you're like, if the dot dies, my sights are right there. And it's like, hey, I understand that logic. And if that's really how you want to go, that's fine. But you are losing the entire bottom half of your optic window because your sights are there. And at that point, it's like, I mean, do you just want to stick with your irons, really? Like, one of the benefits of the red dot, aside from just the contrast of the dot, is having that dot floating in a field of view that allows good visibility of your threat. So not a terrible solution, not my preferred, but some of the like the MNP 2.0, I don't know if all of their modern pistols do this, but the FDE metal frame one, I know that one I put the closed emitter on. It's the sights are high enough, like how they have the slide cut, I should say the slide is, or the dot is sunken down enough. You can see your sights popping up a little bit, but it's not taking up a bunch of the window. And I think there's maybe some of the thought process behind that involved in the Glock Koa, whatever the newest Glock that has the aim point integrated with it, where they sunk it down into the slide even more, so that co-witnessing is easier to do without hopefully taking up too much of the optic. So there's solutions. There's solutions to this stuff, but a quality dot that you're changing the battery on regularly should suit you just fine.
Yeah.
What are some other issues?
I guess just, a faulty unit, it's a piece of electronics with some glass, and it's like, it's prone to break, things break. There's always the possibility of it just going out on you when you most need it. But like we've talked about, it's just like, these things aren't particularly cheap. You spend a good amount of money on them. The companies that make these are still in business. They've been in business for a long time. They tend to work, and that's the consensus. So it's just like, unless you're really just like using it as a hammer and then, a week later you're like, I wonder why this isn't working. It's like, it's probably going to work. Yeah, there is an absolute absolute kind of certainty you have with iron sights, but I mean,
I mean, you'll notice that I don't have a front sight on my pistol right now. That's not by choice.
I redact that statement then. So there is not absolute certainty.
Yeah,
What you-
with my Glock, I just use my gun over time, and then one day I brought it out of the holster during a class, and the sight was just gone. Who knows where it is? It's probably somewhere in Kansas. I don't know. Like along the way of travels, I haven't been like bashing on it particularly hard or doing anything with it. It just worked its way loose. I'm not saying that that's a common occurrence, but I'm an anecdotal story that shows like, hey, that can happen. And I've had my rear sights walk on me a little bit too. So iron sights are not bulletproof. And I know these are, you're like, dude, why are you using factory Glock sights anyways? But I'm just saying, like, I don't know. Iron sights aren't bulletproof. And
That's a good point. And we should all be training to the point where in the event that our red dot has failed or our irons have failed, that you have trained enough that you have a pretty good sense of where that bullet's going.
Yeah.
Especially within reasonable distances.
Yeah, I remember when you and I were doing some basic clearing stuff and doing some church security training. We set up a bunch of targets around the room and set up some no-shoot targets in between them, and we were just kind of, working around the room. And they were laser targets. So basically we had the cool fire trainers in our guns that shoot IR laser basically at these targets, and then when the beam interrupts this, I don't know, whatever you would call it, but this projected beam on the target, it counts as a hit and it turns off the target. Whatever, nerdy stuff. The point is, my dot had died just that day, and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna give it a shot anyways. And so we're going around, and it's just boop, 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 and they were hits. I would say it was a 85% success rate in hitting targets that were about this small across the room, just with using natural point of aim, basically. So
yeah, you did great. I completely forgot about that. That was a fun time. But yeah, I remember I was like, oh, bummer. I was like, what are you going to do? You're like, I'm going to run with it.
Yeah, well, just see what happens.
I think your muscle memory from your training kicked in, and you're just like, well, I'm going to probably present it collinearly, or for a lack of a better term, and I'm going to center my target in my window.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of that was just target focusing anyways. And then if it wasn't a hit, I just kind of, I threw my vision to the window just to see, like, okay, what am I doing here? And I mean, honestly, the first thing I did was I tightened up my hand, or I checked my grip. And the moment I did that, I started getting hits again. So it really had nothing to do with the red dot at that point. And now I'm not advocating for
that's true
turning off your red dot and just using it that way. But in close distances, you can be successful with training. Like, go train is kind of always going to be the mantra. But
yeah, I think that's actually a better explanation. Is it's just like, well, you've gotten to the point where you're not even focusing on your red dot. Like, you've learned, I don't need to focus on the red dot. And I think that's some of initially the red dot helps you to get to a point where it's almost like training you for it to lose its job. Not entirely. You know what I'm saying? It's helping you get to the point where you're like, this is just kind of muscle memory. It's like, that's the target. My arms know how to move, where to move to get it on target. So yeah, we're not advocating
no sights
whatsoever. Yeah.
But I mean, if you think about, doing predictive shooting, which is the term that's often used for it, but basically there's reactive versus predictive. And reactive is I'm reacting to my sights. I'm seeing my sights, and then I'm pulling the trigger based off of reacting to my sights. Versus predictive, it's like I know where that sight's going to be, and I'm going to pull the trigger before I have a visual mental confirmation of that sight. Basically, what that people accuse that of looking like point shooting. I've heard it articulated different ways, but I don't think it's the same thing as point shooting per se. But basically what you're doing is you're using your muscle memory to draw your gun, aim your gun, pull the trigger before your brain has had the chance to process exactly what's going on. So you do see your sight. You just see it after the fact. You process it after the fact, like shooting hoops and the ball's leaving your hand and you're like, that's gonna miss. I know because I felt it. I felt that was a bad throw, and it's kind of, I don't know, similar. Maybe that's not the best explanation, but the point is, you draw and you shoot, and it's like your brain processes after the fact. Yeah, my sight was on target. And you're not always going to shoot like that. But when you do, your sight is not instrumental in you making that shot. What is instrumental is consistent grip, good trigger press. And then your sight helps you confirm after the fact, yeah, I remember seeing the sight on target after the loud noise went off. And then for farther targets away, you just have to shoot reactively. You have to see that dot on target. And then, some of that comes out of competition shooting. I know guys who are wrapped up in law enforcement who would advocate always confirm your sight on target before pulling the trigger. And I understand that this isn't a conversation about, should you ever shoot predictively or not. But at the very least, we can say that when you're skill building, when you're training and building up and practicing your muscle memory and your skill, there are times where your sight is not the focus of what you're doing. It's your muscles, it's your muscle memory and articulating your muscles that is going to land you your success. So all that to say, like, you'd be surprised what you can do if your red dot goes down if you have enough training and consistency. This one I do see as a current problem with red dots that I'm convinced will eventually get fixed when technology gets better, but why don't you talk about auto brightness settings? The look on your face says it all.
I hate auto brightness with a passion. Mm-hmm. It is an abomination to me. Yeah, I think I told you the story, but I went hiking with my wife and my newborn daughter, and I just wanted to. We were kind of in a. It's a sketchier area to hike in. Though we live in a great area, often we find individuals that we just would rather stay away from frequenting that area. So we went on a hike, and I just wanted to check to make sure that my red dot was on. So I just did a quick check like that, and I'm like, "Where's my red dot?" And I'm like, "I can't find my red dot." And I was like, "Oh no!" I'm like, "It shouldn't be this hard." So I was like, "Hey babe, is anybody coming?" No. Okay, so I pull it, I unholster it slightly, finger off the trigger. I don't want to lose my manhood. And I'm like, "Where the heck is this?" And then all of a sudden, I see my chevron slowly blossom in light intensity, going up in brightness. That was a weird way of saying increasing in brightness. But it took like 5 seconds for it to respond to me being in ambient light. And I thought the battery was dying. It was probably closer to like 10 seconds. And I was like, maybe the battery's dying. I don't know what's going on. And for some reason, I've never had this issue before with auto brightness. Oftentimes, it'd just be, I'd pull it up, it's there. Mm-hmm. It was lagging and delaying. After that, I was like, never again. I'm never doing auto brightness ever again. I will spend the 35 cents once a month if I have to replace the battery. So for me, auto brightness is completely useless.
Yeah.
I don't need to rely on that to save cents or dollars in a year on batteries.
So it took about 5 seconds to change brightness settings.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, you have about a 5-second holster draw anyways.
That's true. Why'd you tell people?
That's between us.
Cut that out.
Yeah, so, I mean, I haven't had that issue. I've just had the issue of drawing the gun and the auto brightness just doesn't... It's like, oh, are we still in a dark room? And it's like, no, it's full bright, daylight.
Blown out.
And it won't adjust. It's just the technology is not smart enough yet. I love the concept. I love the concept of a dot that automatically adjusts to your environment, so that's one less thing that you have to like reach up and adjust. It's just not there yet. It's not reliable enough.
I don't think it ever needs to exist.
Okay. That's fine.
It never needs to exist. So what you do and this is me being very dogmatic, is you turn it to a brightness and you go in near darkness and you're like, is this too bright? No? Okay. And then you go into a very bright room or a very sunny room and you go, is this not bright enough? No. You've met your two extremes. Keep it there. But that's just my philosophy.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, if I'm going to err on one side over the other, I err personally on too bright in the dark, because when am I usually in the dark? It's in my house with very short
And that's when we use the
distances.
rifle. Sorry.
And
We
your
use the
nods.
rifle in the house. So
In the nods.
exactly.
No, yeah, I mean, and you know, depending on whatever your personal setup is, but it's like the distances in my home is very short, right? I don't have 25 meters. Like maybe in one spot if I'm at the top of the stairs and I can see across the room downstairs into the other, whatever. But you know, that more often than not, the distance we're going to encounter larger distances, maybe like 10 to 50 yards, and if you're going to take a shot at 50 yards, that's completely dependent on the necessity of the situation and your ability to perform that task as a shooter. I'm not just advocating for shooting at 50 yards. I just think that outside of 50 yards, pistols become dramatically less effective as tools, and your strategy probably needs to change. Whatever.
And legal precedent for if that was justifiable becomes iffy.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, it's all very situationally dependent, so we're not going to go down that rabbit hole too hard, but the point is, yeah, if my sight's just kind of blown out and all red and stuff, I could still probably land a shot in my home. So I'd rather err on the side of a blown out, bloomed red dot at night, and then in daylight brightness be able to have a clear dot, versus my dot is crisp at night and then it's a little on the dimmer side when I'm out in daylight. That's me personally. I'm not saying that that's like the way you have to do it, but
Yeah, no, I would say I would err on that side too. Because again, I'm not saying that, you know, you're going to find that brightness that just works perfectly, but it's good enough. It's good enough. And erring on the side of it's a little blown out at night. Yeah, I agree. That's a good way to think about it.
so let's condense some of this for the people who are probably at this point drooling a little and be like, what are they talking about? Where are we? So
That concludes part 1. Go check out part 2, dropping next week. Thanks for watching.